New York Times columnist Maureen Dowd has covered both Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump for decades, and she's now out with a new book, The Year of Voting Dangerously. That's a title. It features dozens of columns and essays she wrote about the two candidates. And Maureen is here with us now, and we're so grateful and always good to see you. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll get to the book in just a moment. But first, I want to begin with some political news of the day. Of course, we've been talking about Clinton's health and that comment that she made about deplorables. Which one do you think will have the bigger impact?
I think they're both having a lot of impact. This is actually kind of her worst week and Trump's best week in quite a while. And, you know, the health issue, David Axelrod made a great comment where he said it was more about stealth than health. It's a microcosm of everything Hillary has done wrong for 20 years when she gets this wall. Trump has his wall, she has her wall of defensiveness, secretiveness, and turns something that should be like a one-day or one-week story into this snowballing disaster.
But is the basket of deplorables remark as damaging as Mitt Romney's 47% comment? We all remember that.
I think, well, you know, my family is a basket of deplorables.
Oh,
so
my. Are they watching this morning?
Well, no, probably they don't get up this early. But, you know, my family is who she's talking about. I have essays in the book from my brother and sister about why they're voting for Trump. So.
Yes,
right.
Well, the issue, you talked about this, about transparency is front and center this week. Hillary Clinton seems to be getting hammered, of course, for lacking transparency. But Trump has actually provided less when we talk about his medical records, no tax returns. Is that fair?
Well, you know, it's interesting because my friends, some of my friends won't even read my columns if I'm interviewing Trump. I have all these interviews in the book because they think he's a state of emergency. And even Hillary joked at a fundraiser recently that she's the only thing standing between us and the abyss, Trump being the abyss. So a lot of people think you shouldn't compare them. But I think that just because he does a lot of things deserving of reproach in terms of bigoted comments and, you know, not releasing his tax returns, that doesn't mean she's above reproach.
You spoke about this. You hit on this a little earlier. You say the way the Clinton campaign handled the pneumonia situation was a perfect microcosm for why she has problems. What stood out about that?
Well, it's interesting. I think the alt-right has been putting out these horrible conspiracy theories for a while about her health, implying that she's a woman and women are weaker than men, but it isn't really a gender issue. You know, people, of course, it's normal that she fought off the Benghazi committee, she fought off the FBI, she fought off Bernie Sanders. She's on this rigorous campaign. She has a right to not feel well, but she should just say, I don't feel well, I have pneumonia. She shouldn't go into her usual thing of just making it a big secret, not letting the press know what's happening, because that just fuels her enemies and puts them in this kind of sick symbiotic relationship that doesn't help her.
Your book contains many interviews that you've done with Donald Trump over the years. You've covered him since 1999.
Right.
If you could, tell us about the different Trump then and now.
Yeah.
Is there or was there a difference?
That's really interesting. Well, in one way, he's not different because I went out with him on an early foray, and he saw the presidential rope line and was very shy about it and scampered away. But I said to him, why would people vote for you, you know? And he said, because I got high ratings on Larry King. So even then, it was the arithmetic of ego. You know, everything was the numbers. He said, he was dating Melania then, and he told me the number of men who had hit on Melania. So everything was about the numbers. But in another sense, he's completely different because he made the remark about the wall and kind of got enraptured by the roar of the crowd and followed that into some very dark places. Whereas in New York, so he traded a reputation as this kind of fun huckster in New York for a scary Hitler now. So that's not a good progression.
In your book and in your columns, you point out the fact that Trump still calls women sweethearts and also rates them on their appearance.
Yes.
In your opinion, Is Trump sexist?
Well, it's a really funny, epic battle of the sexes in this campaign because Trump is sort of a rat pack guy, and he has that aura of 50s man cave about him. And then Hillary's rallies are with Lena Dunham and Katy Perry and playing Taylor Swift music, and so it's almost like a girls' slumber club. So, but on the other hand, there is a candidate in the race. For long centuries, women were seen as biologically and temperamentally unsuited to be candidates and to even vote.
But wouldn't you consider him a sexist?
Well, but I was going to say, so then there's one candidate in the race who's pouty and gossipy and bitchy and worries constantly about hair, and that's not the woman candidate. So, the sexist answer is...
I caught that one.
Yeah, the sexist answer is complicated because on the one hand he says very bad misogynistic things, but on the other hand he broke barriers for women in the construction business. He appointed this woman, Barbara Reese, against the advice of his father, and she was one of the first women in construction. And he's always been very professional with me, so it's a mixed record. But he has to stop. He has lost the support of most women and a lot of Republican women because you just can't say the kind of things he says about, he will rate Halle Berry. He used to rate Halle Berry like he would say her face was a 10, her from here to here was an 8, her legs were a little bit less. Like he would be that specific about rating women.
All right, let's talk about Hillary Clinton. You've also covered her for quite some time, especially dating back to when she was First Lady. In 1992, you called her a talented and tireless public servant, but someone who is forever calculating how to seem real. A lot of people have been talking about how she doesn't come off as if she's genuine or she's always up to something. That is
so interesting. You make this great point, which is we have these two candidates who are two of the most famous people on the planet, and yet we don't know them because Hillary has this image of always trying to reintroduce herself and give the real Hillary. Mm-hmm. So the memos her candidates in my book were writing in '92, like now this week we're going to show the real Hillary, they are still writing this week. They're trying to reintroduce her and show the real Hillary, which is just weird. And then with Trump, we don't know who he is because is he the liberal New York bon vivant that he was all those decades, or is he this alt-right, bigot? So who are these people? The more we cover them, the less we know.
So tell me this, with that said, you say this book here is sort of a guide for desperate voters.
Right.
What's your advice to those who will be heading to the polls in November?
Well, it's funny because we are now kind of selfie nation, and in some ways running for president is the new selfie. And so I thought it would help, given all these cascading platforms and, all this commentary, if they could look at the arc from when I first started covering these candidates, when they came on the national stage, to now, and maybe they can fathom, who they are and who they want to vote for.
All right, Maureen Dowd,
okay,
thank you so much, and the best of luck to you, too.
Okay,
I told you I love the cover. Thanks, always good to see you.
Thank you so much.